It's noon here in Ventnor City, New Jersey, and our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. And coming to you from the dark is me, and this is news that you can use for Monday, July 15th from CarEdge with your host, me. I'm going to go adjust my contrast, and the young man is, I'll be right back.
Today's show, folks, is brought to you by us, CarEdge.com. If we can help you with our car search, car buying service, car buying toolkit, need to sell a car, we have a solution for that, warranty and protection as well. Check it out, CarEdge.com. Looking good over there. Pops, where to start today, Dad? There is so much interesting information and data coming out from Cox Automotive in Mannheim. We'll start here. Used retail vehicle sales decrease. In June, we saw a decline in used vehicles sold in June. At the exact same time, Dad, new vehicle affordability, it also got a little bit better. It declined a little bit, like slightly better price points. The average monthly payment for a new car increased 0.6% to $756. And we know there's a glut of inventory, new vehicle inventory out there on dealer lots. So you've got, I guess I misinterpreted that affordability data. Actually got slightly worse. So we've got worse used retail sales, slightly worse new vehicle affordability, growing inventory. We're starting this Monday off with Bubble Watch, baby. Bubble Watch.
Inventory is just below 3 million. And I mean just a tick below. I think allegedly it is at 2.96 million new cars that will be available either on hand or in transit this month. We haven't seen inventory levels like that since pre-pandemic. Yep. We are rapidly approaching pre-pandemic levels, and pre-pandemic levels were 3.4 to probably 4 million new vehicles that were available on hand or in transit on any given month prior to the pandemic. When you have inventory like that across the board, you have much larger incentives. And we have seen that for some brands, especially for the Stellantis brands. Stellantis dealers are pushing Carlos Taveras and his cohorts to figure out a plan to move. You can't continue to lose market share, grow your inventory, lessen your affordability. The average transaction price for Stellantis products were, I think, $58,000 last month. That's the average transaction price. The average new car transaction price in America was under $48,000. They are $10,000 more expensive on average than the other brands. And I'm going to say this as nicely as I possibly can, and I'm going to say it by saying, in my opinion, they are a lesser quality brand than their competitors that is trying to charge a higher quality brand's price point.
Yeah.
It doesn't work. So if there is a bubble that's going to get bigger and burst, it would be the Stellantis bubble.
There are a few other brands there that have had declining sales. I'm going to pull this up here, Dad. Honda leaped past Stellantis in first half of 2024 sales data, but GM, Hyundai, Kia, Stellantis, and Tesla have all seen their sales decline year over year through the first half of the year. So those are maybe 4 brands to watch where you're seeing a bit of a bubble. The bubble being increased inventory, need to apply more incentives against those vehicles to get them sold. I think that could be a really interesting opportunity for a lot of folks out there to say, okay, I'm going to watch GM products, Hyundai, Kia products, Stellantis products, Tesla. We know Tesla's very aggressive with their price changes. These are going to be the brands that we expect to see as inventory levels rise, more and more aggressive incentives, right?
you would think, I mean, typically that's what happens. And we know for a fact that that's what the Stellantis dealer board is asking of Stellantis itself. They want Stellantis to produce and make available entry-level vehicles, more available than they have been in the past. They want bigger incentives to help move the stagnant product that they have. And they want that to happen now. And based on the day supply of cars that most Stellantis products have, they needed to have happened 6 months ago, 12 months ago. I mean, we have seen this build for the last, I don't know, 2.5, 3 years. We have seen Jeep sales go down 6 consecutive years. We have seen Ram truck sales drop 19% in the first half of this year. Those are not winning strategies.
Hyundai Kia, though, I think is a little bit surprising to be on that list, although they were growing so aggressively in the past. But now you can go to your local, Kia dealer and they should have Tellurides on the ground. Hyundai dealer, they should have Palisades on the ground. We also should note that some of those vehicles, those dealers are still trying to ask astronomical prices, which is not normal or is not what you should accept in today's market. But there are some other names on there that are not just Stellantis brands that are surprising. GM even being on there, I think, is interesting because they, at least compared to Stellantis, haven't jacked up their prices nearly as much.
Well, that's the difference. I mean, GM realizes that, yes, there are certain segments within their brands that are thought of as higher quality and more expensive. And then there's like an entry-level brand, Chevrolet, which is their mass market brand. And so, if you're a Chevrolet dealer, you've got the Trax, you've got the Equinox, you've got some relatively inexpensive vehicles that you can get your customers into and then move them up as they move up in their life. Stellantis has been dropping all their entry-level vehicles, and one of the quotes in the article, and it's a dealer outside of Philadelphia, and he's absolutely right. He says, you cannot take somebody coming out of a Renegade lease that was $350 a month and then tell them, well, now we've got a vehicle for you at $650. You're not stepping those people up $300 a month. That's not happening. And that is one of the contributing factors as to why their sales are declining at the rate they're declining. You have heard me say this in the past. If I owned a Stellantis dealership, CDJR, I would have that son of a gun up for sale. I would let the whole world know that they could have it. They could buy it. I don't need much. Certainly, I'm not going to be able to charge a lot of blue sky for a dying brand. But yeah, there's some goodwill because I've done business the right way. And I would just unload it. Now, is that to say that Stellantis won't at some point figure it out and turn it around? You got to believe that they probably will. But the question is when.
What do you make of? So we've got nearly 3 million new cars on dealer lots, which is the highest it's been in 4 years.
Yeah.
And it's up 240% from the pandemic lows. So it's up significantly. And then the other headline I shared this morning is used car sales last month were down. We know wholesale used car prices have been declining as well. Yeah. CPO sales, certified pre-owned vehicle sales, were down last month too. What do you make of that, Dad? What do you make of the fact that you've got growing new inventory and used car sales are not, they're down, they're declining? It's almost like the whole industry is kind of plodding along, and like, sure, it's a huge market, so it's massive, but like it's slowing down. The whole market appears to be slowing down.
Well, we can talk about this year, last year, go back 40 years. The percentage of new vehicles sold in the United States in comparison to the population, the percentage has been going down year over year over year for the last 4 or 5 decades.
Yeah.
Okay. We have been somewhere between 13 million and 17 million new cars sold year in, year out in this country. Meanwhile, over the last 40 years, the population's gone up, what, 100 million people?
Yeah.
Okay. But new car sales, realistically, are kind of just like stuck.
Yeah.
Okay. So if that's the case, why is that? And to me, it's always going to come back to the same damn thing. It's an affordability issue. Okay, if you are not going to produce cars that are affordable to the masses, you are not really going to grow your market. And that's what these manufacturers have shown year in and year out. They are willing to cater to the 15 to 17% of the American population that can actually afford to buy a car.
Yeah.
And for them, and I was going to say, and for them, that's a big enough percentage of the population that they can still be extremely profitable.
I want to pull up Melissa's comment here. How is Nissan? Because Nissan feels like the one, I don't know, like outlier in all of this. So I'm on CarEdge.com. I'm going to click on car search up here, Dad. And let's look at Nissan really quick. Let me log in. I always got to remember to log in.
Yes, you do.
All right, here we go. We're logged in. All right, let me come back here. Nissan. So let's look at new Nissan inventory nationwide. We've got 185,000 new Nissans for sale nationwide. Let's just spend a minute here. $23,000 Sentra, $38,000 Rogue. The Pathfinder gets pricey at $55,850. Let's look at this Altima. Dad, you can get into a new Altima sub $30,000. And I'm going to just take a peek here once it loads. Load, baby, load. 175 days supply.
Did you read that Nissan is going to do away with their sedans other than the Sentra?
No, I didn't read that.
Yeah, that apparently, for whatever reason, they don't think there's a market for sedans, reasonably priced sedans. And maybe what the reality is there's not a market for poor quality, reasonably priced sedans. And unfortunately, Nissan's reputation over the last several years, especially with their transmission issues, is that they are a poor quality vehicle, that they don't match up quality-wise with Toyota, Honda, Mazda. They're just not in that same league anymore. And so maybe in Nissan's case, you can't control that market if you are going to continue to produce poor quality affordable vehicles. Maybe that's, I don't know.
Yeah, that could be a good point. Also, we know sedans are less popular today than ever before, but it is. I mean, let's actually look at a Titan really quick. So let me go back. But I do think to Melissa, Melissa's curious what's going on with Nissan. Like, they have a massive oversupply of inventory and price point. This is the one that makes it a bit of an anomaly. Price points shouldn't be the issue over at Nissan. Yeah, this kicks 26,000.
Yeah, it shouldn't be the issue. And I'm telling you, the issue for Nissan has been for the last several years. It's a quality issue. It's a perception of they are producing cheaper, poorer quality vehicles than they had in the past.
248 days supply for the Nissan Titan, Dad. 248 days. That's a lot of days supply of inventory to be holding on to.
Yes. Yeah.
So that could be the Nissan story. But I do think as inventories continue to grow, we know this. This is not the first rodeo. What will ultimately end up happening is prices will have to come down. That is what makes the latest affordability data, I don't want to say shocking because it was like a really small movement, but you actually saw monthly payments go up this most recent month. Like the average monthly payment for a new car went up to $756, which we've stayed around this price point for over a year now. I mean, what was the highest we got to? It was like $780 a month. Yeah,
we've stayed in the $725 to $775 range. What would be interesting, and I don't know if it's in that article, is what the average down payment amount is. And when we talk down payment, there are usually two things that go into the down payment on a car purchase. One is either cash. How much did the customer write a check for, or more than likely put on their credit card? And the other is trade equity, or lack thereof. and which is one of the bigger things that we're seeing as a problem right now is
Definitely.
the lack thereof. So when we look at cash down or down payment, it's cash or trade equity. And people might have some cash, but most people don't have a lot of trade equity. When the average negative equity that they're bringing into a car deal is in excess of $6,000.
Big number.
Well, that impacts your monthly payment. Now, we know that the average term is hovering somewhere around 69 to 72 months, but we also know that there's a greater percentage of loans going out to 84 and 96 months. Those are the factors that are going to contribute to higher monthly payments.
Yeah,
Well,
100%.
the longer term will contribute to a lower monthly payment, just that you're paying a lot more interest for that payment.
You mentioned auto loans. I do want to share with you, we also got an auto loan performance update. Delinquencies and defaults increased. Auto loan performance deteriorated in June as delinquencies and defaults increased. In June, 1.81% of auto loans were severely delinquent, an increase from 1.8% in May, but not back to the higher levels we saw in March and February. Defaults increased 3.6% in total in June, and we're up 12.6% year over year. The year-to-date default rate is 3.07%, which is 17 basis points higher than the default rate in 2019. So we're still on that side, Dad, because you brought up negative equity, trade-ins, things like that. We're still at the highest levels of auto loan delinquency and defaults that we've seen, in, not pre-pandemic, global financial crisis of 08, 07. And so that's going to impact why there's so many vehicles for sale right now, used cars or new cars that people just can't buy, won't buy. And we talked about it last week too. Then the banks are trying to get you extended out on terms, but there's only so far you can roll that negative equity in. And then if you've got the credit hits, like it's a mess, man. It's
not going to change for a while. It's not going to change until the Fed starts to lower interest rates. Sometime the second half of the year. Yeah. Certainly didn't happen in the first half of the year, sometime in the fourth quarter, perhaps. So, maybe by the end of the year, between the Fed perhaps lowering interest rates slightly and manufacturers increasing their incentives dramatically. We're going to
touch on that in a second. There's a good example of increased incentives I've got for you.
But at that point, we might be able to address the affordability issue to some degree.
Let's help out Captain Hardship real quick. What does negative equity mean? That means when you finance your vehicle, you've got a car note on it. You've got a loan, right? So what does negative equity mean, Dad?
Well, negative equity is your car has a value. And let's say you have a car that you have a loan on, and the payoff on your loan is $15,000. That's how much you still owe the bank in order to clear your title. You take your car in and you get it appraised, and it's only worth $9,000. Well, there is $6,000 of negative equity. You owe the bank $6,000 more than the value of your vehicle. That is not the position you want to be in as a consumer. You want to try and have some positive equity. How do you get positive equity? You put 20, 30, 40% down in cash or trade equity when you get into your next vehicle. You keep a shorter term as opposed to extending the term, because as you extend the term, you're creating more interest to be paid back, which is going to create negative equity. So that's what negative equity is. It's the bank basically has on your $15,000 note, $9,000 of it is secured by the automobile, and the other $6,000 is secured by your good faith to make your payments on time.
And we're currently in an environment where more people than ever before are choosing not to make those payments as inventory increases and as sales decline.
Yes.
Bubble. I don't know. I'm just saying, bubble.
Well,
Dad,
yeah.
I want to, we've got a really interesting story for our favorite segment of the show, but I need to cue it up. Okay.
Okay.
So one of the things that has also influenced why we are where we are is because of automakers' decision to try and push into electric vehicles, EV powertrains.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about a story here in just a moment for the least payment you can get on some of the Ford EVs right now. But to help understand why things are so meh over at Ford, I'm going to use the CarEdge car search. I'm here on Ford. We've got new. I'm going to go to engine and drivetrain, and it should say electric. Did I miss something here? Let me refresh. We're refreshing, folks. Engine and drivetrain. There we go. Electric. So there are 26,493 electric Ford vehicles, new Ford vehicles on dealer lots right now. Wow, a lot of Mustang Mach-E's. I actually want to find a Lightning. Perfect. Here we go. So this dealer's actually only had this one for 33 days. That's not that long in the grand scheme of things.
Yes.
But you can see here the days supply for an F-150 Lightning. Where am I? I'm in Maryland. Is 345 days. So this particular trim, which is not that expensive because the F-150 Lightning gets significantly more expensive than $65,000, is 345 days. There are 23 for sale, but only 3 have sold in the last 45 days. What I want to show you here, Dad, is if I actually come over and look at the Maverick. So let me get rid of electric. There are 16,338 Mavericks for sale nationwide. Wow, some of them get quite expensive. We've got one here that's almost $40,000. But if I come down here, the day's supply is 90. There's 252 for sale. 126 have sold in the last 45 days. You ready for this, Pops?
Okay.
You can now lease a Ford F-150 Lightning for just $1 more per month than a Ford Maverick right now.
Wow.
That is how, and I've got the lease breakdown, which we'll talk about in a second. That is, you made the comment earlier, the automakers are going to have to incentivize things. That is how desperate things are becoming for vehicles that are sitting. We looked at the Ford F-150 Lightning, not even the really expensive one, 345 day supply, a one-year supply of those if they stop producing them. You look at the Maverick, a 90-day supply, which is what they want. That's how you end up in this situation.
But here's the interesting thing. I don't know this because you haven't showed me any of the pricing, but I'm guessing that Lightning lease is probably for a base Lightning, the least expensive Lightning that they make, and that you probably can't get your hands on one. Okay, but if you could lease it for only $1 more a month than the Maverick.
We'll start here, Dad. Ford's 2024 Maverick XL starts at $28,015. The estimated monthly payment on that is $368 for 36 months in New York on a lease. You factor all this, do it signing $451 per month.
Okay.
Now we come down here. With $0 down, the 2023 Ford F-150 Lightning standard range model is offered at just $452 per month. The MSRP, $56,900. So you've got double the starting MSRP.
Yes.
And yes, we were talking about the entry-level option. But then, yeah, ultimately looking at a payment that's $1 per month more.
On a vehicle you can't get. But other than that,
all right, let's see. Let's put it to the test.
Other than that, it's a great opportunity for Ford to be able to advertise a really cheap lease.
Let's put it to the test. Let's see here. So there are 6,534 Ford F-150 Lightnings for sale nationwide. In which trim were we looking for?
Base. Was base. A $56,000 truck.
Yeah, I don't even see that. All right, so we're going to just sort this by, whoops, didn't mean to hit location. We're going to sort this by price. All right. Pro is the trim level we're looking for. All right, so let me come back here to trim. Pro is the trim level. Let me check the Pro box. There are 398 of them nationwide, Dad. What are you talking about?
They're 2023s.
Yeah, they're 2023s. There's 398 of them.
Okay. Yeah, we're a country of 320 million people, and there's 398 of them. There you have it.
Oh, man. Here's a 24.
Yeah.
See, only a 158 days supply because this is one of the cheaper ones.
Yes.
But yes, you are looking at what happens when you produce vehicles that no one wants versus producing vehicles that people do want double the MSRP, $1 per month more on your payment. That's the current conundrum over at Ford, at Stellantis,
and
at GM.
there's no conundrum. They're artificially deflating either the residual on the Maverick, or they are increasing the money factor for the lease, which is the interest rate on a lease for a Maverick. Okay?
Here's another
Because
example.
that Maverick is going to retain a much higher percentage of its original MSRP 3 years from now than that Lightning ever would. So they are manipulating those leases in order to make it appear as if you can get that Lightning for just $1 more a month.
That is very true. Here's another example, and then I've got something super interesting to share with you. Cadillac Lyric leases are cheaper than ever, like 52% cheaper. In fact, you can now lease a new Cadillac Lyric for less than a Chevy Blazer EV. So it's not just over at Ford, it's kind of across the board. We actually pulled together recently, I'll pull this up on the screen for everyone. We actually recently pulled together the 10 vehicles with the best resale value, 5-year resale value at different price points. So here's under $50,000. For example, and this is published on CarEdge.com/guides, Ford F-150. There are certain models or trims of the F-150 that are retaining their prices really well. The Toyota 4Runner, not too surprising to see this on here, a 5-year residual of 85%, which is crazy to see. The GMC Sierra 1500. So there are certain vehicles out there that retain their value, and then there are others that obviously
that do not at all.
Like not even close. We'll come here, Dad, from Aaron. Thank you, Aaron. Ray, can you explain how manufacturers can offer special APR rates versus market rates? Do they eat the buy down cost, or does GMAC just set their own rates? Yeah, who pays for it?
The manufacturer pays the captive lender the loss, the difference between what the actual sell rate should be and what the subvented rate is. So GMAC, or I guess in this point it's Ally, they're not losing money on the deal. General Motors is paying them to do that so that the lender remains whole. It's a marketing cost for the manufacturer. So when you see incentives from the manufacturer, and oftentimes you'll see, here's a perfect example of it. Oftentimes you'll see an either or. You can either get X amount of dollars as a cash rebate, or you could get a subvented interest rate, such as perhaps on a Dodge Hornet, where you can get 0% interest for 84 months. If you are not a cash buyer, and even if you are, you will make out better taking the subvented interest rate of 0 than you ever would of taking whatever the cash rebate would be, because the cost to bring that interest rate down to 0 for 84 months is a lot greater than the cash rebate.
100%. Use a loan calculator to demonstrate that for yourself. But yeah, someone's paying for it, and it is the captive financer, and it's how they incentivize and motivate people to purchase. I saw some questions, 52% from what? So let's go back to that Lyric. Sorry, I glossed over this. The MSRP for a 2024 Cadillac Lyric Tech rear-wheel drive model is currently $58,590. A 3-year lease is now priced at $336 a month. That's got some due at signing, takes your total monthly cost up to $477 for that lease. Last summer, the same Lyric would have cost you $859 a month plus due at signing, which was effectively a $996 payment. So year over year, you've got a 52% saving on a Lyric EV lease, because let's put it to the test. This is, y'all know me at this point. Let's put it to the test step. Let's come over here. Let's do Cadillac Lyric. There are 10,713 new Cadillac Lyrics for sale nationwide, and we're in Charleston, West Virginia, the mecca of Cadillac Lyric sales. Drum roll, please. Only 86 days. That's actually really low. I'm surprised by that. I'm surprised that number is as low as it is, but holy cow. This is within 500 miles. There's 588 for sale and 307 have sold. So maybe the lease programs are starting to work out. Maybe that's what's happening.
Maybe. And West Virginia and Maine are the two worst states in the United States to lease EVs.
Really? Yeah.
Because the comparison to a comparable ICE vehicle, you actually pay about $1,800 a month over the life of that 5-year life of that vehicle, more on an EV in a state like West Virginia than,
Interesting.
For instance, in the state of New Jersey, leasing or buying comparable EV to ICE vehicles, with all the incentives the state of New Jersey offers, the EV costs a little over $10,000 less than the comparable ICE vehicle.
Incentives, baby. Incentives.
Oh my gosh, could there be an EV in my... I doubt it.
Chloe, though, thank you for the kind contribution. Bought my Porsche Macan last year for $30,000 out the door. Received an email yesterday from a dealer offering $15,000 for the trade-in. Prices for trade-ins have crashed bad.
Wow. Yeah, that had to make you feel good. I am so sorry about that, Chloe. That is... That's not one of the emails you like to get. Hey, great news! No, You've lost 50% of the value of your vehicle.
For those of you that are going to trade in a vehicle, please go to CarEdge.com/sell. Get those cash offers before you go to the dealership. It'll give you some negotiating leverage. And if we can help you with anything, folks, check it out, CarEdge.com. My dad and I, what are we in year 4.5 of working on this thing? So really proud of everything that we've built. Please, please, please go put your eyes on it. And if you know anyone that's in the market to buy a car, definitely turn them our way. We're here to help.
We are indeed. Last time I checked.
We are, man.
Yeah.
Okay, that's Monday. We'll be back on Tuesday, which is tomorrow. Does that sound good?
That would be my plan. If the good Lord has that in my future for me, I indeed will be here at noon Eastern from Ventnor City, New Jersey. And I'm looking forward to it. I'm so glad to have you back. I hope you had a great trip.
Thank you.
You're not one to share photographs, but I gotta believe there must have been a good photo or two opportunity in Yosemite, and lo and behold, I understand you might have done some whitewater rafting.
Yeah.
On Saturday. So
yeah, I will share briefly. So Yosemite is epic, incredible. Went swimming in the Merced River, I think is what it's called. So that was really fun. Jumping off the bridge into the river is a really good time. I really enjoyed that. Did some hiking, which was really nice. And then whitewater rafting is sick. That is so fun. I can't believe we never did that growing up as a family, but I think the time has passed for you, Dad. I could see you on that. You would have a heart attack, man. You'd be done. You'd panic.
Let's set this up properly. I have a fear of boats in water. Okay, so like I know our dear friend Igor. He has a nice sized boat. Okay, that I shouldn't be afraid of if it was in the water and I was on it. But trust me, I would be panicking if I was on the boat. There's no way you could put me in a raft on water, okay, going down rapids of any kind and expect me to not, I don't know, die in the raft. Let me put it to you this way. I think I would sooner go in a hot air balloon than I would whitewater rafting, and I'll never go in a hot air balloon.
Another thing, the reason I was out in California, I've got it right here, so let me grab it. I completed my leadership course, so I have my little certificate right there.
Oh, look at you.
So I'm going to get that framed up, which I'm really proud of, in recognition of your participation in the Leaders in Tech Fellows program, 2023 to 2024. So feeling really proud of, really proud of that. Excited to get this framed so I can carry it around to wherever my next office is, and the next office after that, and the next office after that. So yeah, it was a good trip. It was a really good trip. Thanks for asking about it, Pops.
I'm glad you had a good time, and we're glad to have you back.
Glad to be here. All right, folks, we'll be back tomorrow at 9 a.m. on the West Coast, 12 p.m. here on the East Coast. We'll come up with something, and we'll be here. I love you, Dad.
I love you too, handsome. See you later.
This is a funny comment.
Did
you promote CarEdge in Yosemite? No, I did not promote CarEdge in Yosemite. I took the day off. and it was
Yeah, as
glorious.
well you should. Yeah.
See you guys tomorrow.